Hi, everyone. Good night. How are you guys doing? So, thank you all. Thanks Vincent and everyone from the AJUG for hosting us here. Has been great. We're in this crazy tour around the U.S., right? So you can see on the map here, or actually the map right here. We started in Austin. We're going to go all the way to Orlando and then quick stop in Chicago before we travel back. And, we are doing the whole thing in an RV. I think we can actually see the RV from here. Just park it right there outside. So if anyone wants to come and join us on the RV later on and say hello, we are visiting Java groups all over the cities to try to get some excitement around Java and answer questions and talk about cool things. I have a crew of people here with me. I'm not sure. I was kind of wanting to introduce them when they stay, but I'm just going to say a little bit. So it's me and Otávio from Brazil, Otávio Santana, right there. Say hello, Otávio. Right, Otávio Santana is a committer from OpenJDK. He's a committer from Cassandra, so it's a cool guy. Been doing a lot of open source software. So he's working on Java 9 right now. He's working on Java 8. I also have from France, but she actually lives in the US, but Yolande Pourrier. Say hello, Yolande. So who here who here is on Twitter? Okay, pretty much a lot of people. Who that's on Twitter follows @Java on Twitter? @Java? Just you follow @Java? That's the only person? Oh, there's only guy right here, right? You guys follow @Java. You have to follow @Java, right? @Java is the main Twitter account for Java on Twitter. And the person behind that account is Yolande, right? So she has like 315,000 people following her, right, on Twitter. So she's going to give us some cool ideas of what we can do to have that many people following us on Twitter. How about that, right? And she got scared, like, oh, I don't want 300,000 people following me, right? It's like kind of creepy, isn't it? All right. And we have, I'd like to say we have people from Brazil, like just, from Brazil, from France, and then we have some guy here from the free country of Texas, right? So Ian Schuessler is an open source developer, Debian developer. He's going to be here with us in a minute, right? So, we brought all those crazy guys here, and we are just kind of in an RV 24 hours a day. You guys here are our break time, right? Because then that's the time that we don't need to talk to each other, right? So thanks for that. Let me ask you one thing here. There's a few things that we want to know, just so we set the pace here. First of all, who here is, one of the things we're going to talk here today is about Java 9, right? So who here is already doing some experiment with Java 9? Has downloaded, doing some experiment? Cool, right? Who here has most of the things that you're running, running on production on Java 8? Yeah, almost everyone is on Java 8. Okay, who here is on Java 7? Okay, a bunch of people on Java 7. Who here is on Java 6? Yeah, there's a few people on Java 6, all right? Okay, less than that, Java 5. Anyone on Java 5? All right, okay, no one on Java 5. That's good. All right, so just a quick note. Moving up from Java 6 to Java 7 is a very, very good move, right? There's a lot of security improvements that you should do. I know that sometimes it's hard, but we got to say that, right? So, if you can move up, that's good. Java 9 is coming up. That means, the support, even the support for Java 8 is going to disappear pretty soon. So the sooner you can get moving up, the better. Okay, so that's about Java. Now, we have some discussion here about cloud computing. So who here is already using, very first question, who here uses any kind of virtualization, like VirtualBox or VMware in their computer or any kind of virtualization at all, right? Okay, lots of people. So who here has anything running on a cloud provider? All right, that's good. Who here is doing anything with containers? All right, pretty much the same group of people. All right, that's good. Who here, so you guys are doing containers. Who here is doing Docker? All right, everyone. Okay. So we're all on the same page here. Okay, that's good. What else do you want to know? That's it? All right. Oh, yes. Okay, so who is already using NoSQL? Any kind of NoSQL? MongoDB, Cassandra. All right, you're using those guys, right? Okay. What else you want to know? What do you want to know, Jan? That's it? Okay, that's good. All right. Sorry for you guys in the camera. You're not seeing who is raising their hand, but lots of people are raising their hand. Almost every question I ask it. Okay. So we're going to talk here. We're going to have lots of different topics here. And to start our conversation, I'm going to introduce this guy that's like a crazy guy. He's a guy that's kind of pushing me to do crazy things since I've met him. Actually, he's pushing a lot of people to do crazy things since he met those people. Ian Schuessler is credited as being suggested Debian to create the Debian. What's it? The Debian contract.
The Debian social contract.
The Debian social contract. The Debian social contract was the basis of the open source definition, right? So he's the guy that pushed people to discuss open source before open source was even defined, right? He's an open source developer. He works on very, very cool projects. He's going to show us some stuff about robotics here. So put your hands together to Ian Schuessler.
Hey, everybody. So I've been showing a little bit of robotic stuff because I also, in addition to, I make my main bread and butter doing Java contracting, mostly Java-centric contracting with web front ends. My brother and I have a small company in Dallas called Brain Food. But I also, starting when we participated in the first round of BattleBots back in the 90s, started to get into robotics just as a hobby. And so I have some stuff that, how many of you guys watched the Jimmy Fallon show? Anybody watch Jimmy Fallon, Tonight Show? So how many of you guys saw the realistic looking robot on that show, the Sophia robot? The guy who built that, we were roommates in college, and I helped build some of the animation system. So I'm just gonna pop it up real quick, just as for fun. Now we got sound? I guess not. So I'm gonna skip ahead. This SnakeBot thing, you should look it up on YouTube and see the SnakeBot. But so this is the robot that I helped build the animation system for. The can you guys see it? Yeah. I'm okay. I think I'm okay. Yeah. So I guess we can't do it. Should I skip the video? Can you guys see it? Can we hit the lights? Where are the lights? Oh, to mess the recording up. Should we skip the videos? Well, so quickly, like this robot has 40 motors in its face, and it can make basically every realistic expression that your face does. It mimics the structure of the motors in your face. It uses Blender, the free animation system. How many of you guys have ever seen Blender? Blender.org? You should check it out. It's awesome. What I did is I wrote a binding layer between Blender and the bone rig, that's what they call it in the animation business, to bind the bone rig, the position of the bone controls in the animation model, to drive through the robot operating system the positions of the motors to match the Pixar-like animation model. So, when animators at Pixar animate a character, they have this series of vectors and simple geometry that they can move around that control the expressions of the character. And then we just took that animation system and drove through the robot operating system with ross.org. You can check it out if you want to play with robotics, to drive the facial muscles. So you can look up Jimmy Fallon robotics and Sophia. So that's just kind of entertaining. I'm going to skip the other. I have also a video from 2014 that shows early stuff, but you can also find that online. So I'll just jump into my main talk. I'm going to give a talk that's mostly JavaScript centric, right? So real quickly, Bruno also, I have my Bruno slide because he always talks about how I talk him into crazy things. He always talks me into crazy things. So to give you guys some background on this talk, he called me and was like, we're going to do this Java tour. I was the original maintainer of Caffe back in the mid-90s on Debian, which was the first GPL version of Java, long before Sun open sourced it. So I was doing GPL Java, before there was any official GPL Java. So I am a Java guy. I do primarily Java on the server, but these days you can't really get away from doing a lot of JavaScript in your client. So Bruno called me and I said, what are you working on these days? And do you want to do this talk with me? And I'm doing a project with Mozilla about the new web extensions API. And he said, well, is it important for people who do Java? And I said, if they don't know about web extensions, they should definitely know about web extensions. So he said, well, you should go on the tour and talk about, how to use web extensions in JavaScript with Java. So how many of you guys know about Nashorn? Nashorn, right? All right, good deal. So I'm going to give, some talk about JavaScript, maybe boo, I don't know. And I'm going to talk about web extensions. And I'm going to talk about isomorphic applications. How many of you guys have heard this term, isomorphic applications? Basically just means code that you can run in multiple contexts, usually use the same code on the client and on the server. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and I'm going to talk about JavaScript frameworks like React and Vue.js. I'll talk a little bit about Filter Bubbler, which is a thing I'm working on with Mozilla, and we already got the robot stuff out of the way, so let's go. What are web extensions? Web extensions are a new API for developing add-ons to the browser in JavaScript where the GUI is HTML and the code is written in JavaScript. So it's pretty much the model you're used to developing in the browser, right? It just exposes additional tools into your JavaScript programming environment that you don't have when you're writing JavaScript in a page. So you can, for instance, ask for the history of the browser. Ask for where that browser has visited. You can see what tabs are open. You can open a tab. You can close a tab. You can create bookmarks. You can manipulate, basically you have the direct connection into the browser internals, and you can manipulate the browser internals. And it's portable. They're still not 100% synchronized across all platforms, but Chrome, Firefox, and Edge are largely similar, and with a polyfill, which is basically like an adapter class, you could think about it as an adapter class, you can get it to where you can get one set of code, run it in each of those environments, right? So it lets you add a button to your browser bar, you hit it, this is basically an HTML page, but you can then put whatever logic that you want to put in there for, let's say you want to have something for your customer service reps that if they want to look up some order ticket number or something, they can, at the top of their browser, have a tool that's always there, boom, it talks to your Java server. You just use the same kind of UI infrastructure that you're used to using, React, Vue, you can use all those things in these add-ons. So you don't have to do it in C++, you don't have to learn like XPCOM or all this other kind of internal browser-specific stuff. So I kind of talked a little bit about this, so I'm going to skip ahead. I pretty much got this slide out of the way. So like a sample, just very simple structure might look like you always have a manifest, which is just a JSON file that lays out what other parts are going to be in your extension. And then you'll typically have a series of the UI. You can have both the pop-up, which is like what you saw there, and you can have it that when you click a link in the pop-up that you can open up a settings page, which acts just like any of your other extensions. If you click it and it takes it to a full page where you can set settings for your extension. So, and then the interesting thing is you have a background context that runs all the time, right? So every time you press that button and the pop-up comes down and goes away, that context resets each time you do that. It's just like hitting reload on a web page. But the background script starts when the browser starts up and it stays there. So you can have background script logic that's running all the time and retains its state all the time while the browser's up. And then you can also inject content. You can inject scripts directly into the content, right? So you can have your plugin, your extension can sit there in the background and watch, let's say you're at work and you have a legacy HTML system, right? And you want to have it that, let's say you have the old ERP system and the new ERP system, and you're in the, you're having to sit there with, people are sitting there with two browsers open and they're copying stuff by hand, right? Here you can have a plugin that can reach in to that one page, talk directly to the DOM and to the JavaScript context in that one page, and then reach over and dump data into the other page. You can directly manipulate the insides of those pages, just like your code was part of those pages. So isomorphic applications, right? Those are, that's code that you're going to run in multiple contexts. So what kind of value can you get out of this? So like, let's say, how many of you guys have written HTML form validation logic, right? Everybody's done that, right? So now you validated your form, you made sure maybe the social security numbers got the right 3, 2, 4 sets of digits, whatever, and now you're sending it to the server. You can't just not check it again, right, and write it to your database. You got to check it again. So a lot of times you end up writing validation logic once again in Java. You know, you have your JavaScript version, your Java version, and now maybe you start adding mobile apps. All of a sudden you got your Objective-C version, your Android Java version. You have the same code, engineering hours for the exact same logic going in all these places. So you start asking yourself, if it's not super performance critical, can you just use the JavaScript logic in other contexts? So there's actually a couple of ways you can go on this. You can take JavaScript and bring it up to the server and run it with Nashorn, or you can use things like ClojureScript to take Clojure from your Java environment and run it in the browser. It compiles it to JavaScript. Or there's JSuite, which lets you just basically compile Java into JavaScript. So Nashorn is the JavaScript environment in the JDK. And what it does is it reads JavaScript and turns it into Java bytecodes, just like the Java compiler reads Java and turns it into Java bytecodes, right? The Java VM doesn't speak Java, the language, it speaks the bytecodes. So this is just a JavaScript compiler that compiles it into Java bytecodes. And this is how easy it is to use, right? Let's see these two lines. You can ask for a new script engine, Nashorn, and then engine eval, you can pass it a string that's JavaScript, and you'll, like if you return an object here, I'm printing, you know, something out, but you could, if you instantiate a JavaScript object and return it, that object, you can return it back to Java, and Java can call methods on that JavaScript object just like it was any other Java object, right? And you can go both ways. You can pass Java objects into the JavaScript context, and JavaScript code can invoke methods on your Java objects. So this lets you really take code, you know, in JavaScript and share it between your two environments. So the reality is applets are dead, right? That's not coming back. So as Java programmers, we've got to get used to this idea that we have to project our logic into these client environments. And part of what I want to people to understand is don't think about JavaScript as this thing that's separate from Java, right? Nashorn just makes it another way for you to use a human language, JavaScript, to produce Java bytecode that can be used in your application. And the tools like, how many of you guys have used Cordova, PhoneGap, right? So it's starting to get to where you can write one piece of JavaScript and you can be producing native apps and mobile web and full-size desktop web and server logic, all from one piece of code. And there's also a lot of interesting stuff happening in the JavaScript space, programming-wise, right? When things started out, I don't know how many of you guys remember, doing jQuery, get, and then you got your on success, and then let's say you got to chain up a bunch of gets that you can't do one until you've done the other, and so you get this flying V configuration, right, where you're like get, success, get, success, get, success, get, success, and then closing them all back out. Well, people got sick of doing that, so it forced people to innovate in that JavaScript space. And then you get the .then constructs, and now you get RxJS and immutables, and there's all kinds of cool stuff going on in the JavaScript space. So you can leverage that stuff in your Java applications. You don't have to start from scratch for some of these ideas. And we've already seen some major changes to Java because of this, right? Like async IO. That was mainly a result of Node.js putting pressure on Java, because when you had 10,000 simultaneous sessions on the Java VM before async IO, you had 10,000 threads, right? Whereas in Node.js, those are just basically entries in an array that you have a thread flipping between. You know, if a connection gets stuck because you've got a slow connection out to your mobile client, you haven't got a thread parked there waiting for it. You've just got a connection waiting for data ready. So leverage these tools in your Java program, leverage these programming constructs. Like React, Flux, and Redo. How many of you guys have used Redux? So Redux is a really different way to construct your programs, right? I'm gonna jump ahead here. because I'm going to be tight on time. You basically, how many of you done swing applications? So you got your event listeners, right? Everything's kind of written in this model that you press a button and it runs a function and you directly execute code right then. And when you combine this with async I/O, you can get these really complicated flow problems where it's hard to understand the flow of your program. So what Redux does is when you click one of those, let's say click that button, it doesn't take action directly, it submits an object to a queue that represents a request for action, essentially. And later a thing called a reducer is going to act on that request. But what this does is it gives you this flow of action objects, right? Like a deterministic flow of action objects. And then your program becomes like a player piano that's running off of this stream of action events. And that makes it so that you have a series of states that your program moves through. So like, let's say you got a to-do list application, right? And you're like, starts out empty to-do list, add a to-do list, now I got 1. Add a to-do, I got 2. Add a to-do, I got 3. Delete, I got 2, right? So the series of states is a deterministic result of the series of action events. So if you do something like, let's say, a feature toggle to capture these actions when you have an error and throw it back to your server, you can take that stream of actions in your dev environment, plug it in, play them back. You should get the exact same state back in your program that your customer got in the field. And that's a really different way to approach your programming. And that's kind of a JavaScript thing. Sure, there's Java stuff doing that, but this is like a major movement in the JavaScript space. And it makes it easy to do things like time travel and undo. Like, let's say you want to have undo in your application. Here, you can, if you hold the last several states, since the whole application just is held in this single state object manipulated by actions, you hit undo, you roll back to a previous state, the whole application snaps into place into its previous state. So I'm building a system with web extensions using Redux called Filter Bubbler, and it's basically a text analysis toolkit for your browser that lets you do the same kind of analysis that the big guys like Google and Facebook are doing to us all the time, right? But that we don't have those kind of tools ourselves to understand our own browsing habits. So, when Facebook is looking at all your friends' posts that they've all posted and deciding what they're going to feed you next, they're doing all kinds of sophisticated analytics on your behavior and the behavior of people who are like you, right? So they are trying to optimize to keep you on the system as long as possible, to try to get you to click on things, to purchase, to make purchases. And we're not aware even of how they're making those kind of decisions, let alone be able to analyze our own behavior. And this creates how am I doing on time? 3 minutes. Okay, so how many of you have heard the term filter bubble? So a filter bubble is this idea of cognitive bias, right? Which is that we surround ourselves with things that we like. You hang out with people you like in general, and you buy things you like. You subscribe to magazines and newspapers that show you things that you like. Well, that has jumped to another level now because search systems and social networks now are using sophisticated analytics mechanisms to feed us what we like, right? And so you get this super cognitive bias on steroids where you're completely unaware of maybe other people's ways of looking at the world. So disagreeable facts never reach us until maybe it's too late, right? We become disconnected from the world. So Filter Bubbler lets you do your own analysis on your own browsing habits. So like a very simple version, let's say we have, how many of you are familiar with Bayesian classifiers? Right? Bayesian classifiers, like what is used in Spam Assassin, or basically most spam tools. And what it does is it creates a statistical profile of text. It's mostly like taking groups of 5 words and building up a statistical profile of the groupings of 5, 3, whatever words in a given piece of text document. And for spam, for instance, if it's Viagra, Ugg boots, right, then it's like, oh, statistically this is probably spam. Well, it doesn't care that it's spam, right? It's just a statistical profile. So a fact I heard that was surprising is apparently that's how they grade SAT essays, right? They take, these are bad essays, these are good essays. Bad grammar has a profile, right? The wrong words are next to each other in a consistent, a statistically significant way, which has interesting implications about, consciousness and knowledge, right? So, but being able to perform these kinds of classifications on your own browsing habits is really interesting. So like, let's say you take a bunch of URLs and you just say, these are awesome URLs, these are stupid URLs. And the system will take the content of those pages and build up a statistical profile of awesomeness and stupidness. And then at a simple level, like you can say, I want to take the current page and have it spit out in a little pop down, this is awesome or stupid. But the system, it's pluggable, so you could take the source and have it be the last year of your browsing habits, and have the sink be a bookmark folder that it creates. So it'd create a new folder and create two folders in there, one called awesome and one called stupid, and then statistically analyze your whole year of browsing patterns and put all the pages that are awesome in one folder and all the pages that are stupid in another. But these are also pluggable. You could take all the articles that were on the New York Times separated by department. Take your year of browsing history and separate it into sports, drama, arts, etc., using the same kind of mechanisms that are used in spam classification. That's pretty much it. I think we're going to save Q&A to the end. No? All right, questions? If you ever use a spam filter. How much training do you have to do? Obviously, more training is better, but if you've ever used a fresh email account, you're using the same exact mechanism as training a spam filter. So, if I were to give a lot of it's going to depend on the differentiation between your document sets and how similar they are. So it's hard to give but hundreds, I would think you'll start, hundreds of samples, you're going to start getting a meaningful separation. Obviously, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, you're going to get a much more fine grain. Oh, and I want to mention the classifier is also pluggable, right? So while you can use a Bayesian analyzer, you could also use much more sophisticated analyzers, like anything that you could write in JavaScript initially, but we're going to even open it up to, using Nashorn. I'm going to play around with doing a Java-based one where the core system is JavaScript, but you can plug in an actual Java. Like if you want to use, the Stanford natural language processing infrastructure to do analysis, you could do that.
Back to the web extensions. I have the questions about the web extensions and really about the potential security risks that it would open up if I can control the browser with JavaScript. So all the things that I don't want the JavaScript to do, it can enable itself to do and do it.
Sure, absolutely. Now, of course, a web extension can't install itself on your system. You have to go into the add-on store and you have to add it. So it's really just exactly like an iPhone or an Android application. Sure, you install something hostile, it's dangerous, but it also has a permission system like Android applications where yeah, it's there, and when you install it, it'll tell you what permission, you're giving it history access, you're giving it cookie access, and you can go like, this is like a, whatever, this is a map thing, it doesn't need my cookies, clunk, not install it. Anybody else?
So Nashorn, I learned the potential, it's like a huge potential. So is there any negative disadvantage of Nashorn? Like, is it going to make it to a big time? Adoption?
It's competitive already with Node.js, and Java 9 continues to build on, Java 7 introduced Invoke Dynamic, which made a huge performance step forward. It depends on what you're trying to use it for, but I think for business logic,
the example that you give, the portability of the validation framework, I did something with RhinoScript, previous
Sure.
version of
Yes.
Nashorn.
Yep.
So you can, same kind of validation. So we had to do a JavaScript validation. We had to do the property validation on the web service, but then we don't have to repeat the logic. So I used RhinoScript, but it was awesome when I implemented the functionality. But Nashorn, is there any negativity? Why people are not using it?
Did RhinoScript met your needs, or? Yeah, I think in general, people who used RhinoScript like there's been a lot of users of RhinoScript, and I do a lot of work with the Apache Open for Business Open ERP system, which if you guys need an ERP system, I encourage you to look at Apache's Open for Business system. But I used RhinoScript there for doing validation of just even SQL inserts in a lot of cases, and it wasn't the dominant. That in-memory JavaScript emulated logic wasn't the big O, right? That wasn't the dominant computational factor for me. And Nashorn makes that even smaller. I think there's so many engineering hours in the Java VM and so many people focused on JIT improvements that I think sooner or later Nashorn's probably going to really be giving Node.js a run for its money. And what you can't be is, like, let's say you take something like the disruptor that disruptor ring buffer thing, and you have like an 8 gig in-memory structure in your Java VM. You can do stuff with Nashorn that you just can't even do with Node.js, right? Node.js does not have thread constructs. You can't have like a big shared in-memory object. You have to pass everything across workers by reference, by value essentially. So there's stuff you can do with JavaScript in the Java VM using Java's like native superpowers that you just can't even think about doing in Node.js.
Yeah, I was thinking why nobody else is doing it. I'm the only person doing it.
I think it's a quiet revolution. I think because of the cognitive bias, right? There's a real tendency among Java programmers, even somebody goes, oh, I've been playing with JavaScript. Everybody's kind of like, oh, yeah, I don't know. Anybody? So take advantage. I'm here. I'm totally happy to answer questions. All right. Thank you.